Okay, welcome back to the beanbag. Today I've got a few figures that they don't really fit in with the other videos that I'm doing, but it's a few figures that I want to show you that I've got. One is part of Playmates, but it's not Star Trek, and the other is Star Trek, but not Playmates. So, as I've mentioned briefly in some of the other videos, one of the lines of figures that can be used for custom making figures was the Sequest DSV line of figures, which was a show that came out in the late 90s about a deep submergible vehicle. I think that's what DSV stood for, deep submergence vehicle, that they can be used for making different figures. And so I've got a few of the figures from that line. I don't have all of them, but I've got a few. This was the captain. I know his name was Captain Bridger. And you will actually see these uniforms are heavily reused once we get to my Enterprise figures, customs that I made. Because the Enterprise figures, the Enterprise uniforms were so closely similar to these. So it was just a matter of slightly repainting them, different colors and that kind of thing, and changing heads. Roy Schneider played the Captain Bridger on Sequest DSV. This is his first officer, Commander Ford. And again, you see that the costumes were all identical. Now, one of the things I loved about these is that, unlike the Star Trek figures, the way that the hips were assembled allows for the hips to bend straight forward. You see that? Man, it's like mind-blowing. They can sit and look, and then the legs could bend down. They had that same thigh swivel like Voyager has, and they could sit properly. And all of us with the Star Trek figures went, why didn't they do this? Same company. So yeah, that was Commander Ford. Then the Chief of Security during the first season of the show, which I mentioned him before when I showed Commander Argyle from the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation. This was Lieutenant Crocker, which you see the face is so very similar to the Commander Argyle, but he's wearing this baseball hat. And so a lot of people, they take this head, cut the hat off, and sculpt on the hair like you saw in that figure. Now, of course, the big difference with this figure being is that he's got a little gun holster on the hip there, but everything else about the uniform is essentially identical. Slightly huskier build in the body, but nothing too big. One of the other big things on of a character on Sequest was they had the teen heartthrob Lucas Wallencheck, which this is a huge favorite amongst custom builders because of the jacket. This jacket can be used to make so many figures. Unfortunately, the legs, really only a couple have been figured out what can be done. If you remember my Scotty in the dress uniform, this is the legs I used, because the kilt could cover the... And I did actually paint these black. I painted his shorts entirely black, so if somebody was to get frisky and look under there. But other than that, this jacket is such a great look that can be used for a lot of different characters throughout all of the shows. I know I've seen this jacket get used for... I cannot remember. It was one of the songs that Brent Spiner played during Star Trek Enterprise. Alton? Was that Alton's song? Somebody will probably correct me if I've got it wrong. In Enterprise, he wore... It was a jacket that looked almost exactly like this, but it was a sort of greenish color. And I've seen it for a few others as well. So yeah, that's 4 of them that I have. There was several more in that line, but that's the only ones that I've got right now. Now, I've also mentioned the Galoob figures back in 1987, 88, when Star Trek The Next Generation first started. Galoob had the license for making the action figures, so they made a line of action figures in the 3.5-inch scale, which if you know much about toy lines, you'll know that that's actually about the same size as the Star Wars figures from back in the day. And that was kind of their intention, was for them to be able to, for kids to be able to match up with those. And the figures overall weren't too bad. I have the Captain Picard, which the head sculpt is actually really nice. It very much evokes Patrick Stewart. Again, why Playmates? Having this beforehand, that hip joint where they can sit down like a proper person. Now, their arms couldn't move. All of them were stuck with this pose of they had a phaser in one hand, and their other hand was usually like a fist or something fairly simple. So that what that ended up meaning is that if you had Picard sitting in the chair in command, he was sitting there pointing his phaser at the screen. It's like, don't say anything wrong, or the captain might shoot the screen. The only other one I've got, I do actually have a... I've got another one, and I can't remember what it is that I've got on box card. I think I've got another Geordi on box card. But anyways, as you can see, the hand thing, it's the exact same, but it's flipped, so that Geordi's got a phaser in his left hand, and he's making a fist with his right. But again, the head sculpt is really nice on these. And it carries really quite well. Again, he can sit like a proper person. So, yeah, and then the last figure I've got to show you, and I'm actually drawing a blank. Does it say on here? I think Galoob might have done these. I'm pretty sure it was back in 1979 for Star Trek The Motion Picture. They made these 3.5-inch, which, let me grab this real quick. For some reason, Spock is a little bit shorter than Captain Picard. I don't know that that's accurate. But yeah, this is a Star Trek Motion Picture figure of Spock. Which, the thing about it is that they only made a handful of characters. They made Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Ilia, and Scotty, I think, was the only crew members that they made, if I recall. And then they made a handful of aliens as well in this scale. But for all of the uniforms, like they had, like, the Ilia figure was wearing a bright yellow uniform. And yeah, Spock did technically wear gray, but it was, the whole uniform was the same color gray, and it didn't have a little black belt piece. Only the little buckle itself was black. And of course, you see that the eyes have pretty much rubbed it, and even the eyebrows are starting to come off. But I mean, this figure's over 40 years old. But honestly, other than the paint rubbing off, the sculpt itself is actually quite good. They just could have done a better job with the paint. But that is all of those that I've got for you today. So if you were ever interested in that, like I said, I've seen people actually take these figures and convert them into Nog, which, to give you an idea of what that would look like, sort of, it would end up coming out something like this. which to me feels like it would be a little bit short for Nog. But I might be mistaken as well on that. Aaron Eisenberg was fairly short. I have to look up how short he was, how tall, what his height was, and I'm sure it's available online. But anyways, thanks again. Until next time. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Also, you can support the show by signing up on Patreon, or head over to Zazzle to pick up prints of my artwork, prints on canvas, t-shirts, and other merch. You can find me on social media. For more information and updates on the channel, all info is below. If you didn't enjoy the video, why are you still here? Do you want a song? Ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, them, 3 bags full. One for the master, who can screw himself. You can listen to somebody else. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Also, you can support the show by signing up on Patreon, or head over to Zazzle to pick up prints of my artwork, prints on canvas, t-shirts, and other merch. You can find me on social media. For more information and updates on the channel, all info is below. If you didn't enjoy the video, why are you still here? Do you want a song? Ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, them, 3 bags full. One for the master, who can screw himself. You can listen to somebody else.